This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz Podcast.
We will get to Stugotz's thoughts on Nick Saban in a second because he is a rodeo bull right now. He has not been let out of the pen, but he is fired up. He's been spewing takes in every direction, waiting for these microphones to go hot so he can let Nick Saban have it. But before we go any further, they got Rich Rodriguez. And I say it that way because some of you have not liked the language or where I've been flippant on some of these things when it comes to sexual harassment. You think I've been flippant and had blind spots, which I get because I'm looking to find some of the funny in all of these things. So the angry mob spooks me. And so I'm like, they got Rich Rodriguez. Now, we don't know what's true there. He is vehemently denying the charges. But what I thought was interesting is I saw Dave Chappelle on Netflix. And weirdly, he might be doing the best work of his career because what he is doing is so hard navigating some of these topics in real time with humor.
Right.
These topics are hard. Hell, man, these topics swallowed Louis C.K.'s career. The behavior in these topics is what ended him. And so these are dangerous. There are all sorts of dangerous things about making fun or having fun around the topic of the day. And he's doing it with both right now. Chappelle on Netflix is just sitting around with an audience and he's just giving you his thoughts, his perspective. Some of it's funny. Some of it's deep. Much of it's deep, actually. But he's not necessarily going for funny. He's just talking to the audience. And one of the things that he did, and tell me this doesn't strike you, and it's one of the reasons that comedians are so important. Man, Jimmy Kimmel has become like a journalist. Jimmy Kimmel's out there like moving mountains on healthcare through comedy. Jon Stewart was the most credible journalist in America for a while. The comedian, Jon Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
And
Colbert doing it. I mean,
and what Chappelle is doing is so hard. And look, he just framed it this way. This is the story he told, and this is how he told it. And tell me if this doesn't reach you as men in a way that you would understand what it is that women deal with all the time as they become victims all over workplaces and elsewhere because of how poorly men can behave, especially when given power. Chappelle was saying that the most scared he's ever been in his life is that some drug dealers thought he was really funny and he made them laugh and they gave him just $25,000 cash because he was funny. And he was very young in his career. He was like 17 or 18. And he's going home on the subway and he's thinking to himself, man, if anyone knows what I have in my backpack here, they will kill me for it. If anyone on this ride tries to take this backpack, I will die. I will die. And he said, it's the most scared I've ever been over a short period of my life. And then what he said, which is funny and amazing and an amazing perspective, is that he says, now imagine if I was carrying a vagina all the time. That's not how he said it. Something men wanted all the time. You'd start to feel like prey. And what you're seeing happening in this country now, and now it's come to sports and it'll continue to wander throughout sports, is that women are tired of that fear, and now they've finally been given permission to scream. And think about what we're talking about here. We've talked before about the idea of, Stugotz, you're not a large man. You never walk to your car afraid.
Never.
That someone behind you is going to do something bad to you.
No.
That someone is going to want something off you physically and might take it whether you want it or not.
Never. I mean, with the exception of the one time where I walked out of the Miami arena and there were two crackheads smoking crack in my car. Other than that, never.
Well, that probably is a story that is worth revisiting. The old Miami arena is in, it is now and was then a crack palace. It's just hard to explain to you the neighborhood that was in, although Stugotz, I think, just gave you some pretty colorful ways to understand it.
Yeah. Now, my car was like the last one in the parking lot because I had stayed after.
I'm surprised it wasn't on fire.
I think that was probably the next step.
That area, and there have been two areas in Miami at a time. That area and, during the Colombian drug wars. Like, there are areas in Miami that you simply do not go to, and so they put a basketball team there.
And I walked out last.
And you walked out last, and what happened?
I walked out last, so I'm the only car there, so I could see. Now, there was good lighting, incidentally,
yes.
in this parking lot. And so I could see, and I was probably like 50, 60 yards out, and I could see that my car doors were open and there were people in my car.
A car you had locked.
It was, yes, a car I had locked. The old Acura Integra that I had back in, I think, 97.
And so what did you do?
What did I do?
Well, I don't know what you do in those situations. What did you do? Did you call the police? Did you try and be like somebody would be around a bear, which is the wrong thing, are you supposed to make yourself big around a bear, or are you supposed to play dead? Which one are you supposed to do?
You got to play dead. No,
I think you're supposed to, you're supposed to show that you're not intimidated, right?
No, if you get attacked, you're supposed to play dead.
Hold on a second. Guillermo, put on the poll. If confronted with a bear, are you supposed to make yourself big, or are you supposed to play dead? But what did you do? So you're scared. Are you doing anything? Like, are you
I'm with a
yourself-
friend. No, I just realized that my car, like someone had broken into my car. I saw someone in my car. I saw a light, which turned out to be a flickering lighter in my car. And so I just called the cops. Like, I called the cops, and then the cops came out, and it wasn't until the cops came out that I felt comfortable going close to my car. And what was in my car were two crackheads smoking crack, and some crack pipes, and some rocks.
Yeah, pre-attack, you get big. And if you get attacked, then you play dead.
That's right, yes.
Oh, okay.
That's
so
where I was
pre-attack.
confused.
Whoa. Okay, so you immediately die. You
have to, no matter how much it hurts.
Okay, that would be hard. That would be hard.
Yeah, I know.
That was DiCaprio's mistake in Revenant.
Yeah, he fought back.
Yeah, you can't fight back. Like, what are you doing? That movie would have been much shorter if he had just done what he was supposed to. Just get big and then play dead. Boom. But no Oscar, understandably.
Right.
But you save yourself all that damage from that bear.
Pretty boring movie, no?
Did you think Revenant was boring?
It dragged on.
Really?
I could see where that's not a Sugats movie.
Wait a minute.
I was all excited for it. And
Wait a minute.
It could have been just the bear scene.
Okay, I am questioning the entire movie judgment of this entire show when we are segment removed from Mike Ryan saying Al Pacino was fantastic in Any Given Sunday. And now we're talking about Revenant, and you guys are saying it's boring. Put it on the poll, Guillermo. This is offensive to me. You guys don't like art. Revenant was not boring.
Is that what it was? Art?
It was art. Revenant was not boring.
Oh, the scenery was very nice. The vistas, beautifully shot, but it dragged. It could have just been the bear movie. You just remember the bear scene, right? It's a bear movie.
I love that, though. I do love the symbolism of DiCaprio's worked his whole career to get that Oscar. And yeah, you get it here. Congratulations. We're all very happy for you, Leo. It's the bear movie. Like all that work that you poured into your life and your craft, like congratulations. You can have the Oscar, but it's not your movie. It's the bear movie. And it dragged, furthermore. But it didn't drag when the bear was in it. Didn't drag when the bear was in it.
Not once.
But the bear wasn't in it enough.
I know the bear didn't.
The bear should have won the Oscar.
He is so right about this. He is so right about this. And that leads to the question, perhaps obvious, perhaps not, what animal should have won an Oscar? What animal in the history of film is the most Oscar-worthy non-human? Wait a minute. I'm not even making animals. I make it non-human, and now you can act with superheroes and you act with all sorts of things.
Well, Wilson could have won an Oscar.
Wilson drew more out of people than most actors can do in a lifetime.
Wow, the volleyball and Wilson.
Christopher Plummer's jealous of the volleyball.
Guillermo, put that on the poll. Should Wilson the volleyball have won an Oscar?
Dan Le Batard.
What is the most pathetic you've felt moved to tears by something inanimate in the movies, like a robot or E.T.?
Wilson.
Really, a volleyball?
Wilson.
That's
when
a pretty
he
good
loses
nominee.
Wilson.
I mean, but gosh, I didn't feel anything. I felt the whole time that's just a volleyball.
Stugats.
It was his best friend.
I know, but I didn't feel that one. They didn't create the character of the volleyball well enough for me in Castaway for me to buy. Like, it was just a volleyball floating away with a bloody handprint on it.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
Our hero and gasbag lord, Stephen A. Smith, now is right after us on ESPN Radio. 1, 2, 3. I want to talk a little bit about sports, but the days after that, like 2 days after a championship has been won, is a very slow time in sports. And so Central Florida won the championship a couple of days ago.
Right. And
now there's nothing to talk about. Like the whole news stream is filled with Isaiah Thomas comes back. Like, so this is a slow time, which allows us to have the discussions we were having during the break, which were shocking. Did you know, put this on the poll, Guillermo, did you know that the snakes in Indiana Jones were not fake, but were legless lizards that looked like snakes. So now we've got an Oscar-worthy animal, the legless lizard, that has convinced us for these 30-plus years that it was a snake.
Shocking.
A great job of acting by those legless lizards. So Ron McGill joins us now. Zoo Miami, real quick, we got a couple of questions. What are we supposed to do if I walk outside and I'm confronted by a giant bear?
Well, definitely in the state of Florida, the thing you do is, first of all, you just put your arms up, stand as tall as you are, make yourself as big as you can be, and go, hey, bear, hey, bear. And that bear is going to go away. It's happened to me several times, especially up in the Ocala National Forest. Black bears are not the types of animals that are going to come after a human being unless it's a mother with cubs. The best advice I can give you is when you're walking through a forest that's bear country anywhere in Florida, just make a lot of noise. Bears are going to avoid you. You don't want to surprise a mother with cubs. That's when it becomes bad. Generally speaking, hands up, make yourself big. Hey, bear, that bear's going to run away. If the bear comes at you, if it's a mother with cubs, then once that happens, then you got to try to play dead. You put your hands behind your neck, try to cover your neck, any real vulnerable part of your neck there, your carotid artery, and just stay as still as you can. Remove the threat.
Ron, you said Florida. What if I'm not in Florida?
Well, grizzly bears, big brown bears present a bigger threat, but it's still the same deal. The same deal. Make yourself big, make yourself tall. It happened to me in Alaska. Came across a big brown bear in Alaska walking across the path. And that's exactly what I did. I just, hey, bear.
You didn't do hey, bear. You didn't come across a big bear and go, hey, bear. It's easy for you to say now, far removed from Alaska, being on the phone with us in the safety of your own home. You didn't say, hey, bear.
Why are you so
You were scared. Hang up on this kook. Hang up on this kook. I don't want to talk to him anymore.
I'm with you on this, Dad. I mean, usually I get mad at you when you get contentious with Ron McGill, but hey, bear. Like that, no. That bear's going to laugh at me and then kill me. Hey, bear. Oh, hey, bear. I'm really big. Hey, bear. Yeah, get out of here.
Oh, yeah. Big man with the radio.
He's listening.
Just turn off the phone whenever you want, right? Yeah, you got the controls, buddy. You know what? Happy flipping New Year to you. I hope you run a
Get out of here.
Hey, bear.
Yeah, hey, bear, you kook, counterfeit. You've never even been out of that zoo. You tell all these pretend stories. You're Brian Williams. These pretend stories, it's always a story. And then I was in Alaska and I ran into a bear. I found myself in that situation, and of course that happened to me. There was a stampede of elephants, and I wasn't scared at all. I just said, hey, elephants.
They went away.
Yeah, they went away, scared and loving me, and every time I come back, they greet me.
He made it sound like a Ron McGill guarantee. Like every single time you make yourself bigger, hey, bear, they go away.
That's it.
Well,
that's handbook.
I mean, I wouldn't have the poise to do that.
No, nobody would. We'd all run away urinating ourselves and then, be in the stool of the hungry bear. Well, nobody's patient enough. The bear's coming charging at you.
You're walking with your wife. Now, honey, listen, just relax. I got this. We're going to make ourselves bigger and say, hey, bear.
Let's get back to the animals.
Oh, God.
Okay? Animals that deserve Oscars. How about Jaws? There's no greater animal in the movie than Jaws. Come on.
Get rid of this guy, too. I don't want him on the show either.
No, it's a new year, and Burke's on the show.
Get out of here.
New Year's resolution. Burke on the show.
Demand once more money.
He's right about Jaws.
We need to come up with a list.
Goss is right. It's the bear movie.
He's just always lingering in the shadows, man. Mark Teixeira is our movie guy. Adnan Virk is not our movie guy.
And losing between living and dying.
Can't be our movie expert. So if you're just joining us and you don't know what we're doing, Adnan Virk has been trying to get on our show for a long time. He sneaks in sometimes that way when we're having movie discussions. He's not allowed it.
I've been a middle-aged man. I've made every mistake.
Get out of here. Blink, Stugotz. If you finally installed the electronics you've gotten during the holidays, then you would have gone outside and thrown the boxes that contain these expensive items in the trash. Burglars notice these things. But if you installed Blink, those burglars, they got nothing on you because you're watching them. Tell
Lady Bird.
Oh, for the love of God.
Lady Bird.
And it's Larry Bird.
Go see Lady Bird. Come on, guys. Support great.
Don Le Batard.
I don't know anything.
Stugats.
I don't remember what I was going to talk about, so in those instances, what I have is a default that just makes fun of Stugats.
You're welcome.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Here's your SportsCenter update. The University of Arizona has fired football coach Rich Rodriguez in the wake of sexual harassment allegations. The Bengals have changed course and have signed and have agreed to a contract extension with Marvin Lewis through 2019, just hours after Dan said he'd never coach again. And finally, thanks to a 1-3-1 final week by Big Boy, our celebrities lost to Colin Cowherd. I know.
Oh, no.
The celebrity prognosticators went 40, 33, and 3 for a 525 winning percentage. Colin went 38, 30, and 2, just edging us out with a 557 winning percentage. It's all right, but we thank all the celebrities that joined us this year, except for Richard Lewis. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
And Lovitz and Carrot Top. And Lovitz and Carrot Top. The three of them were terrible. I wonder why they were terrible. I usually think of them as the Mount Rushmore of comedy.
Thank you.
I love so many things happening around sports. Can someone explain? Guillermo, put this on the poll, please. Have you ever had a boss as kind as the Bengals are to Marvin Lewis? This is an unusual thing, man. You don't stay 15 years with a football coach that hasn't won a single playoff game. I don't even know. I feel like I'm in the 1940s. That doesn't even make sense. These coaches get fired after 2 or 3 years if you don't win a playoff game. You're sitting here already wondering if Bill O'Brien's in trouble just because his quarterback got hurt.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the Bengals are really, and I know a lot of people will make fun of them, but management has been loyal to Marv Lewis. They must think that he's doing whatever his job is well enough.
You know what he's done, though, Dan? We had this discussion yesterday. The organization, the franchise, was so bad, was a laughingstock for so long, and they haven't won a playoff game, but at least he has brought some credibility and stability.
No, but
to
we're
that
laughing
team.
at the Bengals again. Just by re-signing, I think most people hear that Marvin Lewis has been extended, and they laugh at that.
Right.
They laugh at the Bengals still trying to go after the Patriots with Marv Lewis and Andy Dalton.
Right.
Good luck.
I mean,
seriously. Bill Belichick will be 10 years after his death on the sideline, and Tom Brady will be still playing quarterback for them 3 years after his death because of that doctor who's not a doctor who's going to, he'll throw for 4,000 yards that season. His completion percentage will go down, but long after he's dead, Tom Brady will still be playing, and Belichick and Brady will still be laughing at the idea that Marv Lewis and Andy Dalton are chasing them.
125 and 112. That is the record for Marvin Lewis.
No,
Dan, you're right, because they're being very nice to him, because Ben McAdoo, he took him to the playoffs last year, and he's fired a year later.
I don't think Marvin Lewis is that bad. I don't think Marvin Lewis matters that much. The part of that I find interesting is that nowhere, and where else in sports, someone tell me, that you're getting in big sports where you've got to win playoff games. Is there any coach this year that's in the playoffs how many times was Coughlin on the hot seat while headed to a Super Bowl? Was that
several
twice?
times. Well, no, yeah, it was.
Yeah, he got on the hot seat after he had won one Super Bowl, and they were thinking about firing him again.
I'm saying, think about what I'm saying. Tom Coughlin got run out of New York and actually was the only thing to stand in the way of the Patriots running this sport for 2 decades straight. Tom Coughlin. And he got run out of New York with legitimate accomplishments. And here's Marv Lewis, who started before Tom Coughlin did in New York and Cincinnati and is still there and hasn't won a single playoff game since. That's crazy.
I guess it is kind of crazy.
You just do not see that anymore in modern sports where an owner is so loyal to his coach that he's like, I don't care what anybody thinks. I like 125, 112, and 1 is enough.
There will have to be a coach that won early on, and then the owner just stays with the coach because he won early on. I think that's the only other examples you'll find.
But doesn't the coaching carousel in the NFL such that it is also frustrate you? So what's the answer?
Oh, no, do I sound like I'm complaining about it? I'm making fun of it a little bit, but I think we'd all want a boss like the Bengals.
I mean, I want a boss like Jimmy Haslam, maybe not on the corporate side, but in the Browns, like Hugh Jackson won one game in 2 seasons.
And he's sticking by him.
Coming back.
But that stuff is so hard. Like, if you realize what has happened with the Patriots is they built around this core with stability. It's why Belichick resigned on that napkin with the Jets, because he didn't trust that organization. All of history could have been different. Belichick went there, had the stability of ownership, and once you start winning with the stability of ownership, all of a sudden everybody can do their job fearlessly. Because, man, oh, man, if Marvin Lewis is going up against Bill Belichick in one of these tight spots and 4th and short, and Marvin Lewis is sitting there thinking to himself, look what's on the other sideline, and is my job in trouble? I've got 15 years of security, but I don't have the security that guy does.
Right.
I'll punt here. I'm going to punt. And the other guy's playing fearlessly. The other guy has job tenure, stability. He's not scared of anybody. He's got the best quarterback. But the worst part about it is I wonder if the Bengals know that they've been saddling Marvin Lewis with a quarterback who simply can't win in this league.
I think they know now. I think there's a time where they thought they could win big with Andy Dalton.
I know, but now do they realize that that they're saying, you know what, our bad. Marv, we put you in this position. You don't have a quarterback good enough to win a playoff game. He's not ever going to win a playoff game. And now but where do you even go with Marvin? Are they going to still go Andy Dalton the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? They're going to still keep doing this with Andy Dalton until he expires. Andy Dalton should not be starting in this league. He starts in this league because A.J. Green is amazing, and they've had an amazing offensive line for a long time. And Andy Dalton, the Bengals were good enough to win the Super Bowl except for their quarterback position a couple of years ago. And now the window's closed.
I can't imagine they'll go forward with Andy Dalton. I just can't. I can't imagine they do that.
But what is the plan? Like, what do? You just signed your coach and said, we're loyal to you.
Do they still have A.J. McCarron? Is he still there? I mean,
they have McCarron, who's upset by the whole failed trade to Cleveland deal. I think he's trying to become a free agent this offseason because of the box trade.
To me, the Browns are one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in sports. With the stuff like that you have where they tried to trade for a quarterback but didn't get the paperwork in on time, to specifically the way they went 0-16, where at the end they're driving and they dropped the ball that any one of us would have caught. A professional wide receiver on 4th and short to make them not losers for eternity dropped a pass that was right in his hands that is the easiest catch he will ever make, and he dropped it and went through his hand.
And to make it extra Browns, he was a first-round draft pick, and he's played 2 seasons, and each season he's broken a hand as a receiver. Not great.
A lot of people are saying Mark Richt got the Marvin Lewis treatment at Georgia. Didn't win anything big, but Georgia kept bringing him back.
Well, because it was a similar situation, because Georgia also hadn't reached the heights that Rick brought them to, much like the Bengals, who were, toiling.
I would say though that 10 wins in that sport will get you a job at most major programs for a long time. Like, if you're doing 10 wins a year.
He did that like 9 times.
And you're not winning the big game in college, you can do that. Basically, the Bengals had this very small window, but the Bengals are 7-9, 8-8, no better than that. Like, that's just what they are. We all know it. And now they're tying themselves to a coach. And you're like, how? I can't remember something quite like this. Somebody help me. Somebody give me a comparable to Marvin Lewis. Spending 15 years in a place without ever winning a playoff game and major sports being okay with that.
I mean, 15 years alone is rare.
It's just crazy.
Jason Garrett, maybe?
But he hasn't. Jason Garrett's been there a long time, but what's that?
Not 15
that's
years,
not even 10 years. And we've heard about Jason Garrett being in trouble. And we also know when it comes to Jason Garrett that he has that job, at least in part, because you have to just simply get along with Jerry Jones.
Correct. He's been there 8 years. Hasn't won a playoff game. Been there 8 years.
But you understand what the relationship in Dallas. You just have to be a guy who's willing to take whatever pinata beating Jerry gives. That's not what's happening with the Bengals.
No, I think they're pleased with Marvin Lewis. It's not about, hey, be our pinata. It's, hey, no, look where we were before he got here and look where we are now. At least no one's laughing at us, but now we're starting to laugh again. So
you're saying just pros because Kirk Ferentz has kind of got the Rick deal right now.
Enough of that guy.
Well, we've got to get to what Nick Saban thoughts Stugatz has. You want to give those now? I know that you've got Kirk Ferentz thoughts as well, but I just feel like Kirk Ferentz is allowed to be the guy at Iowa that doesn't win anything because it's Iowa. Come on. It's Iowa. It's not Alabama. It's Iowa.
Well, that's like Cincinnati, right? We'll take the 9-7,
no, but
the
we don't
occasional 12-4.
normally see that in the pros, though. The Bengals are the Iowa of the NFL. We don't see that in the pros. Pro teams are expected to win at all costs. It's not okay that Kirk Ferentz, we're like Iowa, whatever. Which is it? Is it Iowa, Iowa State? Which one's better? They're all the same.
How about Fisher? Jeff Fisher.
What about him?
He stuck around for a while without doing anything.
Well, he got to a Super Bowl.
He
didn't win it, though.
Win it.
I know, but wait a minute. Okay, fair enough. What is Jeff Fisher's playoff record? And again, I will remind you, that Marvin Lewis started in Cincinnati 15 years ago, and they had 5 playoff wins. And 15 years later, as a franchise, they still have 5 playoff wins.
But they've had 7 more cracks at it.
There's not a yes, they've had 7 playoff appearances where what do? They lose to TJ Yates or Houston in the first round.
All right, so with Houston, who then turned into Tennessee, Jeff Fisher was 142 and 120.
How about playoff record?
They lost to the Rams in that Super Bowl. Okay, so he was 5-6 in the playoffs with that team.
Okay, now 5 playoff wins.
5
Jeff
wins.
Fisher's
and a Super Bowl appearance.
Okay, but Jeff Fisher is
and an AFC Championship game appearance.
Enduring laughingstock, and he had 5 playoff victories. Marvin Lewis just got extended for 0. He's won as many the last 15 years for the Bengals as I have. As many for the Bengals as let me see some of these characters we have for great performance from animals in movies.
We're done with the coaching discussion.
Well, no, I was just thinking. Free Willy has won as many playoff games. Willie from Free Willy has won as many playoff games as Marvin Lewis the last 15 years.
I believe his name is actually Keiko. He portrayed Willie.
Lassie, Flipper, Keanu, the cat from the Keanu movie. Man, this is a bad list.
How about the gopher from Caddyshack?
Best acting performance. We were asking, in case you're wondering, what animal is the best actor ever in the history of the movies. What animal should be up for the Oscar if we gave the Oscars to animals? And our list stinks because this is a list. Our producers, they're mailing it in today.
Did you see the gopher though?
Hold on. Yes, I saw the dancing gopher.
Dancing yes. alone, right?
Okay, but on this list is
Hugh Jackman of Animal.
Look, man, the youth of this. Mr. Ed is on this list, which is very old, but Mr. Ed is a famous horse. It says Indiana Jones monkey. Like this list stinks. You can't have. There was a monkey in the Indiana. What did the monkey do in the Indiana Jones movie? Why would the monkey win an Oscar for what? Nobody remembers the monkey from the Indiana Jones movie. We remember the snakes that were actual legless lizards.
Didn't the monkey play dead?
Yeah.
Talent.
There you go.
You put it up on the poll. Is the monkey in Indiana Jones up for our animal Oscar?
Don Le Batard.
So he was on Wingo and Golic, and I'm told this is Golic and Wingo. Excuse me. Whoa,
that's a fun.
Wow.
Yep. No, that's not a fine.
Wow. What do you mean?
No, what? That's not.
That's not the name of the show.
That's not the name of the show.
A fine.
They only had 8 million ads.
$2, 2 names wrong, right? No, and be careful on tone. That's all I'm saying. $2, fork it up.
Stugats.
Want me to front you?
No, thank you.
Good, because I don't have any money on me.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
We were talking yesterday on the show. I was agitated because Dabo Swinney got dragged by Nick Saban in a way that usually doesn't happen quite that obviously, where one team clearly has the better players and knows everything that's coming. And you're just sitting there watching it, and you're like, oh, Clemson has just been totally neutered. It does not matter what they do. They might as well just run right out of the stadium because none of their plays are going to go forward. And he got dragged, and he yells at his player, just lights up his quarterback who has carried him because he's embarrassed. He's embarrassed because he can feel and see nothing I have for Nick Saban after a month of preparation is going to work tonight.
Right.
And so what does he do? He doesn't fix it. He doesn't run reverses and try to do creative things.
Yells at his quarterback.
He just eats it all night and then yells at his quarterback when his quarterback can't get away from the 11 savages on the defensive side of the ball for Alabama because all of them are in the backfield because your game planning stunk.
Coach, you try to do something.
You do
against
this.
Those guys.
I would love one time. You know what? That should be the penalty in college sports sometimes. If a coach goes over some sort of red meter line, he has to go out there for a play. And do what he's asking these people to do.
And the quarterback that he's replacing gets the call to play.
Oh, yes. The person he yelled at gets to call whatever the play is.
Yes.
But I saw Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing is a first-time coach and first-time head coach. He's at Georgetown. And I just loved the way he coached his kid, which wasn't gentle at all, but also wasn't what Dabo Swinney was doing, which is just screaming in frustration, not leading, just screaming. He was frustrated, so he lit up the eyebrows of his quarterback. What Patrick Ewing did, his center, I think it was his center, took a one-legged sort of fadeaway jumper that was only the entirety of the career that got Patrick Ewing in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly that was not a play that's in his game, but it was Ewing's shot. And Ewing came over to him and wasn't gentle about it and just lit him up with, hell was that? Like, have you ever shot that before anywhere? Have you ever shot that before?
Little hint of a smile on his face.
No, I mean, not really. No, Patrick Ewing, I put it on the poll, Guillermo. Does Patrick Ewing smile? I think the answer to that is no.
So do you work on that shot? When?
Yes.
When do you work on that shot?
It was so funny,
doing, man.
Yes, it's like, what was that? That one-footed thing that got me into the Hall of Fame because, I'm a Hall of Famer. That thing. When have you ever done that? Because I was kind of the best at doing it. Don't do that anymore. As opposed to Dabo Swinney, who's just like got his whole lifestyle based on being in the right place at the right time as the interim coach and just ends up there and hasn't ever done it.
Right.
Not at that level. He played.
So you want Dabo to walk up in that spot to his quarterback, Bryant, and just say, hey, I know these guys are good.
Oh, that's right.
These guys are good.
How great
they're better than us.
How great would that be at the height
of arm around him?
How great would that be at the height of competition? To just put your arm around one of the players like, oh, they're big? How big are those dudes? Alabama's got like 7 of them that don't even play that are better than anyone we have.
Doesn't matter what my game plan was.
How is their corner bigger than our offensive lineman?
That'd be so refreshing. It never happened.
Right. No, but how great would that be if a coach was like, oh, man, Alabama, dear God, how does Saban get all those players?
Did you see what bad for you? I got to put you back out there.
Have you ever seen that scene in Billy Madison where they're doing the academic decathlon and Eric plays a flute beautifully and it's amazing, and then Billy just goes, and he just folds his arm and goes, he's good.
Yeah.
That's sort of
That's exactly
what
it
I'm
is.
hoping a coach does.
Do you think Saban, Stugotz is mad at Saban, and we'll get to that in a second. Saban seems pretty joyless, right?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as a joyful coach? Like, I think there's certain parts of the job that are just such a misery, and you're a control freak, but you have control. You have actually how frustrating a dilemma is this, that you're a control freak who actually, once the ball is snapped or thrown up, has very little actual control.
Right.
And
especially, of
anything. Like, you can design the plays, but it's up to everybody else to go and do their jobs. And so you're kind of powerless with the most power on the field.
Trying to think of happy coaches.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Is there such a thing? Like, if a coach should be happy, it's Nick Saban. He's got always the better players.
Always has the better players. Anytime anyone else gets a raise, he gets a raise. I mean,
what I'm saying, if you can't be happy as him, who the hell?
Mortgage paid for.
Does Belichick seem happy to you?
No, miserable actually.
But who's happy? Who the hell's a happy coach? Someone? Anyone? Is there such a thing? Go ahead and put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Is there such a thing as a happy coach? Because all of them just ooze misery. And Pat Riley has said there's winning and there's misery. There's not happiness. There's winning and there's misery.
Does Pete Carroll come off as happy?
It depends on if they're winning or not.
Mostly. How about Frank Layden?
Frank Layden was great. He's also dead. And has been for many years.
But he was happy.
He was happy.
He was happy. He was a jolly fat man, Frank Layden. I think you just took a Utah Jazz coach from the 1980s.
He did.
Because Jerry Sloan, this is pre-Jerry Sloan. You just made a reference that much of the audience has no idea what you're talking
about. Frank Layden's still with us.
Yeah. What?
Wow. That's a fine.
Wait a minute. What?
An egregious one.
Wait a minute. What?
$10, man. I mean, you just killed a man who's alive.
Wait a minute.
There's no death date on his Wikipedia.
Wait, that can't be right. Wait a minute.
So he's alive. If Wikipedia, there's no death.
Wait a minute.
Why can't it be?
Did I just confuse him with Rick Majerus?
Because of Utah?
That is what just happened.
And that has.
I'm so sorry, Frank Layden.
Another fine.
It is a fine.